Inc. magazine has named him as a top 100 leadership expert.
Hello viewers, today I am in conversation with the world's most highly ranked leadership speaker, and he's a phenomenal public speaker. As you can see his videos on YouTube, on various platforms, right? He has trained 500 plus Fortune companies so far, and he is known to be an IT transformational expert, author of two best-selling books. The first one is on leadership, and second one is Fast. He believes that success cannot be achieved without clarity. And today in the podcast, I'm going to discuss why it is. I mean, why clarity is very important. Why we should have not a lot of options in our plate. So first of all, Jordan, sir, thank you so much for taking out your 30 minutes for this valuable discussion. So, and the
Yeah.
viewers, we will also get insightful tips from your expert experience and your expert advices. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Okay. And it's Gordon, not Jordan.
Gordon, right? So Gordon,
No
sir,
problem.
I have been through your LinkedIn, and you have posted a strategy which is FAST, FAST.
Yeah.
And it was the first moment when I got intrigued that, I mean, what kind of a strategy it is? Fast. And when I read that post, it was like F stands for something very insightful. A stands for
Focus.
accountability. S stands for simplicity. And then T stands for transparency. So, I mean, what is it? Please explain it in simple words, right?
Yeah. So for me, I worked in IT, or I worked in IT for over 30 years. And, I like a challenge. So in order to advance rapidly, I took on the more difficult projects. And as I started to do that, and gain a little bit of success, I became a sought after turnaround expert.
Right.
And when you're a turnaround expert, you have to come in, understand why things are failing, and fix it. And when I looked at, my history, I wondered, was there a pattern that I was following? And I was just not aware of it. And I sat down and I kind of, did a bit of introspection. And what I realized was that on every project, there are actually only 4 reasons why things fail: lack of clarity around the goal, also a lack of focus. We don't know what success looks like. We have a lack of clarity of accountability. People don't know what they're supposed to be doing. We don't know how we're going to hold them accountable. A lack of simplicity, and simplicity is about how are we going to get from where we are to where we need to be. And then the last one is about transparency. We don't have clarity into our progress. And when we lack clarity into our progress, if we don't see the progress we were making, it can make us demotivated and stop. So if you want to be successful, you've got to increase your focus, your accountability, your simplicity, and your transparency. And when you do that, not only will you be successful, you will actually achieve your results fast, because the quickest way to do anything is to get it right first time.
Listen to Gordon with the tips about starting simple, starting small, celebrate, and all the great things that he said. And I just take it all and send it to myself. Amazing.
Make sense?
Yeah, completely. It is, and it is actually very practical, because I have read more than 15 self-help books, and all over there, one thing is very common, that without focus, there is nothing can be achieved. So focus is really very important.
Yeah, I did a post on LinkedIn today. I was just looking at some quotes on focus, and there was one from Bruce Lee, and he said, "The exceptional warrior is an average person with laser focus." So when we are doing exceptional things, it's not necessarily that we've got amazing talent, it's that we've just got exceptional focus.
Right.
I mean, we and I'm sure along with the rest of your listeners, very, very big cricket fan, and it doesn't matter how good a batsman you are, if you're not focused, if you lose focus for 1 second, your stumps are everywhere. And we've got to keep that focus, keep the eye on the ball, hit it, and then move on. So yeah, focus, massively important.
Right. And sir, recently I have interviewed Mr. George Mumford, who is a coach of Michael Jordan. He also said that when Michael used to play in the court, he also tend to teach him that what is mindfulness, and how to
Yeah.
build focus. So what would you advise that how to build focus in this distracted world, that how to keep focus towards the goal, right?
So you need to have clarity on what the goal is, but also clarity on what are the things that you need to do to get there. And then you just need to be disciplined about not getting sidetracked. It's very easy for us to, how many car crashes, guys driving down the road, a good looking girl goes past, boom, it's over. So we've got to have that mental discipline. But to do that, we need to know what are the activities that are going to move us forward. What are the things that are going to give us the best return on investment, and focus on those. And anything that doesn't move you towards your goal, don't do it.
Sir, you have mentioned multiple times that that clarity is very important, but how can a person can get clarity? Because today, because of digital era, because of internet, we get lot of choices, we get plenty of options. How to figure out that what is good? So what strategy will you tell us, that how to figure out between good and the best option? That sometimes it happens that eating mango is a good option, but eating beetroot is a far better option. So how to figure out that 100 million deal is good, or 50 million? So I mean, tell us something about that how to do that.
So the first thing I will say is that simplicity is always a good option with projects. And when we're looking for solutions, complicated or more difficult solutions tend to be easy to find. So you're looking for something, you can find a solution quite easily, but it's probably not the most optimal solution. So don't settle for the first solution. Spend a little bit more time looking to see what the alternatives are, and are they better? And I'm always, and we're always under tremendous pressure. It's got to be done now, dive in, get into action. But I always remember that the quote from Albert Einstein: if he had 1 hour to save the world, he would spend 55 minutes understanding the problem and 5 minutes trying to solve it. We tend to spend maximum 1 minute trying to understand the problem, and then we're diving in trying to solve it. So we just got to take that time to step back, see the forest. As we say, we're talking a little bit about cricket. You don't have to hit every ball for six.
Right.
Pick the deliveries. So do a little bit of studying, a little bit of research, see what other people have done and what's worked for them. And then, pick what's the best strategy for you. Not the best strategy, the best strategy for you. Because while it might be good for Michael Jordan, I'm a foot shorter than Michael Jordan. So that approach isn't going to work for me. So make sure you've got the best approach for you.
And sir, I'd like to know that how can be accountable, because after focus, accountability comes. So what would you advise to be more accountable in these days for students, for leaders, that how to become responsible?
No, so accountable and responsible are two different things. Responsible is about execution. So you could be the opening batsman. You're going to be responsible for helping to build a good score. The coach is accountable for the win, and he doesn't play. So accountability is about ownership of the outcome. Responsibility is about the execution of activities. And what we need to do is we need to own the outcome. And when we make a commitment, meet that commitment. If we want our teams to be accountable, we've got to be the role model for what accountability looks like, because we set the tone. What leaders do gets copied and becomes the culture. I was at a speaking gig. I was invited to a speaking gig in Lithuania, and I sent my invoice for the speaking fee. They paid me within 24 hours. How quickly do you think I responded to any question that they sent to me? I responded immediately, because they'd set the tone for the relationship. I send an invoice, it's paid immediately. Now I'm gonna mimic that behavior. If they take 4 weeks to do that, then when you email me for some information, maybe I'm not going to get to it as quickly. So with our teams, with even our partners and suppliers, the way we act will have an impact on how they respond to us. So we need to be accountable, make commitments, keep commitments. And it's about taking ownership of the outcome. So when we're leading teams, we are still we still own the outcome, but we can help them take some of that ownership by setting them up for success. Because when they feel they're going to be successful, then they'll take ownership of it. You know, you see it in sport a lot. When teams think they're going to win, they play like demons. When teams think they're going to get beat, heads go down, and performance falls. So when we can get people in a position where they feel they're going to be successful, then they will take accountability.
Right.
Make sense?
Exactly. And sir, you have explained it in very simple words, that how to differentiate between accountability and actual responsibility, and how it can bring huge results while becoming.
Accountability is the difference between success and failure. If people take ownership, when things start to go wrong, they'll look at it and think, this shouldn't be happening. What can we do to fix it? If
Right.
people don't think it's going to be successful and it starts to go wrong, they'll just be, I knew this was going to happen. And they go into spectator mode. And you want your teams in solution ownership mode, not spectator mode.
Wonderful, sir. So, sir, accountability you have explained in very simple words, and actually taking charge should be a duty, and a leader supposed to do that when he thinks that, or actually when situation seems to go out of the hand. So, sir, why do you think that simplicity becomes a massive thing, becoming a successful leader? Because after accountability comes simplicity. So how to be simple? Because as a human, everybody wants to have a lot of skills, but they don't know that what is the required skill that is going to bring huge results to them. So how to simplify the situation? Because even small situation leaders creates it as big as it is not. Leaders transform that tiny situation into massive situation,
Yeah.
but it is a small, right?
Yeah. So with simplicity, the first thing is it's mindset. And we live in a complicated world, a complex world, yes. But that doesn't mean that everything needs to be complex. It doesn't mean that there aren't simple solutions to things. So we have to we have to be in the mindset of there might be a simple solution in order to look for it. That's step one. And the second thing to remember is that complicated solutions are easy to find. Simple solutions often take a little bit longer, but it's so worth the way and effort to try and do that. And then the last part about simplicity is that even if the solution is difficult and it is involved, we can reduce the complexity by explaining it explaining it simply. Because even if it's complex, if we can get people to understand it, then they'll be able to engage and execute. If we don't explain it simply, even simple tasks, if we explain them in a complicated way, complexity kills execution. So even if we cannot simplify the actual execution, what we should do is we should communicate it simply so that people understand.
It is very easy way to explain that, and actually you have explained very insightful thing, that explaining things simply, and it is about mindset, that there is not any compulsion to make even small things complicated. So it is all about mindset, right?
Yeah. So as I say, complexity and belief, lack of belief, kill execution. And one of the stories I always like to tell is that when I was 52, I decided I wanted to run a marathon. And my two best friends told me, you're too fat, you're too unfit, and you're too old. It's never going to happen. Excuse me. But what they were really saying is, I'm younger, I'm fitter, I'm thinner than you, and I couldn't do it, so you couldn't do it. And I said to them, but I've got a plan. It is a simple plan. The week one, I run 5 times a day, 15 minutes. I take Saturday off. Excuse me. I take Saturday off, and on Sunday, I run for 20 minutes. The next week, I run for 20 minutes every day. I take Saturday off, and on Sunday, I run for 25. The next week, 25 minutes every day, take Saturday off, and on Sunday, I run 30. And they said, so you're just going to run 5 minutes more every week? And I said, yeah. But in 26 weeks, that compounds to 4.5 hours. And in 4.5 hours, I'm going to be close to running a marathon. And they looked at me and they said, okay, we'll do it with you. Now, I hadn't made the marathon go from 26 miles to 10 miles. What I'd done is I'd laid out a simple step-by-step plan where they could see with a 5-minute increment every week how they could get from where they are to where they needed to be.
Right.
So I don't want to say running a marathon's not difficult or complicated. It is, but when you have belief, it's only 5 minutes more. I can run 5 minutes more. Any week I can run 5 minutes more. So all you need to do is do that for 26 weeks in a row. Boom, now you're ready to run a marathon. So this is what we need to do with our teams. And there's two aspects to this that I find. One is that I'm a good problem solver. So can I explain it simply? And sometimes I can, sometimes it's outside my area of expertise. But when it's outside of my area of expertise with my teams, I ask them, explain it to me simply. And what we'll find is that, well, I can't do that because you don't have the expertise. Yeah. Einstein says, if you can't explain it to an 8-year-old, you don't understand it. So now explain it to me like I'm an 8-year-old. And when they do that, they're actually explaining it to themselves. So now we have a collective view of how we are going to get to solution. And it can be a complicated process, but if we explain it simply and we've got understanding leads to action, action leads to progress.
Right. Amazing things that you have explained. And sir, I was reading a quotation of Brain Tracy. He also mentioned that there are 3 steps of achieving anything in life, whether you want to pick a great deal or you want to do anything, whatever you desire. The first step, as you mentioned, that it is imagination, that first we should imagine the things that we exactly want in the future. And the second step is hope, and actually belief, that we need to create and we need to cultivate a strong belief that yes, I will do. And the third is action, because without executing, nothing is going to. So you have also explained that belief is important.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm a firm believer in is that, we need to aim high, have an aspirational goal, be clear about what success looks like. And we have to have belief. My teams have to have belief, but you can't just, hope is not a strategy. Yeah. Hope is not a strategy. So what we have to do is we have to build belief, and we build belief by showing people, if you run 5 minutes more every week, you'll be able to run a marathon. And if we can break it down and people can see how they can go from here step by step, and they've got the tools to do it, that's what's going to give them belief. So we can't just, I don't think of myself as a motivational speaker. I see myself more as an inspirational speaker, because motivational speakers go, you can do this, come on, let's do it.
Right.
Yeah, great, but how? How am I going to do it? So what we've got to be able to do is break it down step by step. And when we can see that path, even if it's difficult, but if we can see how we're going to do it and we build in quick wins along the way, that'll generate belief, it'll build momentum, and you'll be successful.
Right. And sir, you mentioned that you are an inspirational speaker, and actually I have seen your videos as well. And the way you speak, the way you inspire them, and the way you explain things very simply, even if the thing is very complex, you use simple words and simple stories. So what is the secret behind your public speaking? According to your experience, what are those essential things to incorporate in our public speaking style? Right.
Yeah, so I don't have anything against motivational speaking. I don't think inspirational speaking is necessary higher. I tend to think about motivation as somebody stood behind me going, come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, let's go. Whereas inspirational for me is, I tell you once and then you go, I've got this. And you are inspired to go and do it and make the steps. So for me, how did that come about? So I've worked in IT for 35 years. In the last 10 to 15 years, I've lived in Czech Republic in Prague for a year. I've lived in Holland for 3 years. I've lived in Florida for 3 years. I've lived in Germany for 6 years. My wife is Belgian, so I speak French. I've had global teams of 1,000 people. I've had a team of 350 in India. And when you're communicating with different cultures who don't speak English as a first language, and you've got a team of 1,000 people of different generations, different cultures, and different locations, you cannot, as a leader, you don't have the time to go around and tell everybody what it was you said and what you meant. So it forces you to think about, how can I use simple English and get my message across? And when it comes to my writing, one of the things that I do when I write is I write to my 30-year-old self. and I'm writing advice that things I know now, I wish I'd known at 30. And again, that forces me to write it, assuming he doesn't know anything that I know now. So that forces me simple language, enough information, and it's just a question of practice.
Right.
I'll tell you a story. I did this post yesterday. I did a TEDx. I wanted to do a TEDx, and I thought, let's aim high. Let's do it in French. I speak French with my wife. I'm almost fluent, but for the talk, I still need to, practice some of the tenses
Right.
for the language to be perfect. And I was the 12th speaker. I was the only non-English speaker. And when I did my talk and I came off, over a dozen people came up to me from a French audience and they said, you were the only person we understood. The only person. And everybody else was a native French speaker. And it wasn't obviously they could hear what they said, but they understood the purpose of my talk, the message I was getting over. And it was because of the structure, the simple words, the repetition,
Right.
and the clarity of thinking that allowed to do that. So even in a foreign language, you can do that, but it takes effort.
Right.
And, with practice, it becomes a lot easier. So now when I'm speaking on stage, I was speaking in Shanghai in September, and not only am I speaking to people whose first language is not English, it has to be translated
Right.
for some of the people that don't. So you've got to be clear about what you're saying. Crystal clear.
And sir, it is very important because clarity brings conclusion to anyone, because when we use simple words, we can easily convey the message. It's very
Yeah, absolutely. I've read a number of leadership books. I'm not going to name them. And I have a degree in mathematics, so I'm a smart person. And I read the chapter 1 and I think, what the hell is this? This is really complicated. And I'll read it again. I'm like, wow, this guy's a genius.
Right.
I don't understand this. And for me, it's nice that you've written that, but who have you written that for? That's not going to help. With my books, what I want is I want people to read it and go, wow, I understand this. I'm a genius, because now they're inspired. And when it comes to leadership, I would love to be able to lead everybody one-on-one, but that's not going to be possible when you have a large team. So you're only going to get small interactions. So it's important that you put them on the right path, so that when you're not there, they can continue towards success.
Right. Exactly. So, sir, moving towards the last strategy, which is transparency, which comes after simplicity. So, why do you believe that transparency is important? And actually, what is the difference between honesty and transparency?
So transparency has a couple of meanings. One of them is to be transparent about your actions and your dealings. Right. And if people understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and if it aligns with the values or what you've said, that's going to build trust, which is important. When I'm talking about transparency, I'm talking about transparency in a performance. Let me ask you a question. It's the Cricket World Cup final. You've won the toss. Are you batting first or second?
First.
Really? Most teams go second. It depends on the conditions, but most teams, when they win the toss, they want to bat second. Why do they want to bat second? Because they have transparency into the score they need in order to win. And then what do? We look at our run rate, and we see it in cricket all the time. This is the run rate of the first team, and then we can look at the performance of the second team. Are they on track to catch them or exceed them? So this is what I'm talking about with transparency. Do we know the journey? Can we see where we are after 5 overs? Do we need to start being a little bit more aggressive and up the over rate, or are we doing fine and now we can just play a bit more less risky?
Less risky, right.
But you ruined that by batting first, but I'll let you off of that.
So, sir, you have explained that transparency should be very important, and actually it plays a massive role for a leader.
Yeah.
And sir,
so I was in Barbados for the Cricket World Cup final. After 15 overs, it looked like India had the trophy in the bag. Crowd were cheering, everything was going. Those next 4 to 5 overs,
right,
and I was cheering for India, by the way, not South Africa. And over those next 5 overs, South Africa started to creep back into the game. And what me and my friend Tarak noticed was the closer and closer it got to the end, the more and more people in the audience were stood up and cheering and were like, yeah, we're for South Africa, because they thought they were going to win. That progress motivated them. And you could even see with the Indian crowd, not the motivation, they were still motivated, but the confidence started to eat away. So transparency, it's good for us to know so we can react, but it's also great for motivating us to move on. But happy to see India through probably the best final over in a cricket World Cup and win. But this is the power of transparency and the impact when we see the progress we're making.
It creates a huge impact. So, sir, you have explained your strategy of fast in very simple words, as you really do, so the viewers would have understood it in very amazing way, and the viewers will definitely find it very practical and insightful conversation. So I have request to the viewers that comment in the below that what is the one thing that you found very interesting and you have learned it very beautifully and very in very simple things, because these are very simple things, but it actually skips our mind, it slips our mind, and that creates a lot of trouble in any field.
We have to bear in mind, and I don't want to. I want to keep inspiring people. These are very simple things, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're easy to do.
No, yeah, it is not easy.
But if you follow them, it will become easier, and you will have success.
Right.
And even the wrong path is difficult. But if you can be on that right path, these things, it is a simple approach.
Right.
But things that are worthwhile, still, running the marathon, you still got to run 26 miles. But if you've got that belief in the approach,
right,
it's a lot easier.
So these are actually simple things, but it is very hard to execute, because in this world people are very distracted, so they forgot that that does easy thing works, or do we go for complex things. So it is very hard to execute, but it is very simple. Understand?
It is. It is. And this is why transparency is important.
Transparency,
because as you execute, you're going to get immediate feedback that after 5% of the way through, are we on track? 10% of the way through, are we on track? And when you've got that transparency that's telling you, yes, you're on track, or even better, you're a little bit ahead of schedule, that will motivate you to double down your efforts.
Right.
And move forward. Again, just talking about cricket, a lot of times we see teams get ahead on the run rate and then they just go crazy and they win by 2 or 3 overs, because now they feel confident, it's going well, and that's what we want to be doing. So even if it's difficult, that transparency is crucial. And if you're not making the progress, then you've got to review your approach. If you're trying to take a single off every ball to score 10 and over, that ain't going to work. You just need to flash the bat a little bit more to get that rate up. So transparency, focus, accountability, simplicity, it's part of the setup of the project. And then transparency is about that, tracking the progress, the motivation, and understanding where we are.
Right, and it is very crucial things. So Gordon sir, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and viewers,
you're welcome.
have really found it very interesting. And so you are an amazing speaker, and the way you have explained your strategy, and it's actually explained with simple words, it's gonna make complete sense to the viewers. So thanks again for taking out your precious time and join us on the podcast. Thank you, sir.
So let me just make an offer, because for me it's all about inspiring and motivating people. What we'll do is for people, if they want, I don't know, I'm going to give you a PDF or an audio version of Fast, and if people want to read that, download it, listen to it, then I'm sure we'll have a link somewhere that they can click.
I'll add that specific link of the PDF in the description section, so that our viewers can easily get that, access that.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir, for being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.